and welcome back to CHGO White Sox post-game. After the White Sox lose to the Houston Astros by the score of 2-0 and lose the season and series to the Houston Astros. Welcome in to our respective living room / offices. My name is Herb Lawrence. You can follow me on Twitter at Ecknerwall23. I'm the CHGO White Sox community leader. Our guy who's usually here, it's Sean Anderson, who is a host of this show. He's going to have a vacation this week, so he's off from until next Sunday. So if you guys like me and Vinnie, you're going to get a lot of us this week. And including, speaking of Vinnie, that is Vinnie Duber. He is the guy to my, I guess, screen right. He is the CHGO White Sox beat reporter. And today, Vinnie, it wasn't great, but let me set up the show, because today we will talk about this loss and we will recap the whole weekend for the White Sox down there in Houston. And then after that, we will talk about the transactions the White Sox made this offseason. And if there is a positivity, and CHGO Bears guy, Greg Braggs, is going through a thing with Bears Twitter about learning to win. I know in football, he disagrees if there's a such thing. Baseball, I'm going to ask Vinnie, and I'll give my opinion about, is there such a thing as learning to win, as it would benefit the future? And then also we will get into some minor league talk, see if any of these players down in the minor leagues will be welcome and worthy of a September call-up. And then our last break, we will be talking about White Sox trivia. If you guys like the Immaculate Grid, if you're big-time Immaculate Grid fans, I have a little trivia at the end where I'll guess trivia with Vinnie, and then if you can guess on the side, definitely bring your opinions there. But White Sox lose today by 2 solo home runs, one by Gdes and one by, of course, Jose Altuve. Vinnie Duber, this weekend was a net loss for the White Sox as they lost 2 out of the 3. And let's go over what happened this weekend. I mean, on Friday, I didn't watch most of the game, but I caught some of it. And you got the rocket shot by Luis Robert up on the tracks on the first at bat. And then later on, you get the one of 30 home runs by Luis Robert on Friday. You get the 4 innings from Garrett Crochet. What do you think about Friday? I don't know if you watched any of these games, but Luis Robert hitting 2 home runs, even if the second one was a Mickey Mouse home run, that's got to be a little encouraging.
Yeah, I mean, look, this is a guy who we've talked about has been going through a pretty horrible slump for a pretty extended time now, and for him to see some positivity in terms of results at all, I think is a good thing. This is a guy who, kind of learned from Jose Abreu that the way out is to just keep working, and hopefully the work kind of pays off in terms of results. So that's unsurprising the way he's going to kind of go about things, but you got to see those results, right? And so he's probably doing the work the same way that he has been throughout this entire season and much of his career as a major leaguer. But now, it can be frustrating if you do all that work and it never comes to fruition, right? So I think to see the 2 home runs, a big night like that, what do you have, 4 hits, I think, right? Yep. I mean, that's huge for him. Now, is it going to carry on, or is it just a one-day kind of thing? That's what the next 6 weeks are to determine, but you got to start digging yourself out of that hole somehow. And to have a huge night like that can probably be pretty helpful in terms of confidence. I mean, remember, whether it's Grady Sizemore or even Luis himself acknowledging it, confidence and comfort level have taken a hit probably with how poor the results have been over the last couple of months for him. Now you go ahead and get a little bit of a confidence boost. That's working in the right direction. So again, I'm not willing to say that I'm not ready to say, I should say, that the Luis Robert Jr. renaissance is upon us, but I think that a night like that certainly can't hurt.
And the thing is, subsequently, he's gone against Hunter Brown, who I think he went 1-for-4 against, and then 0-for-4 today versus Framber Valdez with 3 strikeouts. So yes, those pitchers are really tough, and I know I'm a results guy. I mean, a process over results guy. That could be any good player against those type of quality pitchers. So I won't necessarily look at the 1-for-8 there and saying, oh, he's back on being his, regular Luis Robert self this year. But, those are 2 tough pitchers, and you got to battle. And I seem to thought that today he was battling through pitches and doing his best. Not, sometimes I get the feeling that, which is regular human nature, that he might want to give up, that he might want to, give up a single at bat, not necessarily, okay, I'm not trying anymore, and I don't want to give that impression. But sometimes it's tough to keep your mind focused on, hey, this at bat counts the most. And bench coach Doug Sisson, I think, said before the today with the assembled media, just like on Saturday, which we'll get to, he felt like that wasn't the White Sox. That's not what we're trying to teach here, how they lost to the Houston Astros. I think the score was 6-1 on Saturday. And on that day, that is when the White Sox got officially eliminated from playoff contention. We all knew it was coming, but they did it on August 17th, which is the earliest that it's ever been done in the divisional era since 1969. It's a dubious distinction the White Sox now hold as the first team be eliminated by August 17th. The previous record was August 20th by the 2018 Orioles. Is there any significance, anything that you take away from them setting yet another record of dubious distinction?
I mean, I don't think there's anything of significance at this point, right? I mean, I think the thing of significance is going to be the big picture in total, right? When we get to the end of the year and we know whether or not they end up setting the record, the modern record for losses in a single season. I mean, this season is a whole lot of yuck from a results standpoint, and about as bad as it could possibly be, literally as bad as it has ever been within the last 60 some years. So they're going to keep hitting marks like this, here and there, whether it's, stuff like run differential or stuff like losing streaks, which they've already had happen this season in terms of matching an AL record. But this one thing, it doesn't strike me as terribly important because of kind of the way I acted during that losing streak, right? Which was, hey, this is what it's been like all year. And I mean, if you're going to watch this team in April and May and June, you're going to know that we're going to be eliminated from the playoffs mathematically very, very early compared to not just the rest of the league this season, but the rest of teams in what you just described as modern baseball history. So it is not something, as the White Sox keep saying, not something you want your name next to, but this kind of stuff all comes as part of the package to me, right? When you play this bad, when you have a roster that was assembled this way, when things were so bad that you had to get rid of your manager in August, like it is all kind of comes with the title of maybe being the worst team in baseball history, or at least in modern baseball history.
And I want to give some type of positivity that happened this weekend. Garrett Crochet pitched 4 innings on Friday in their only win over this weekend. 4 innings, gave up 4 hits, 1 earned run, and struck out 9 and 55 pitches. It's good to see that Garrett Crochet is finishing off his season strongly. I know Sean, our guy who's usually here, the host, said that he is like, what's in the time since July, he is 73rd in strikeouts by that time. But we all know with proper context that Garrett Crochet hasn't been pitching the regular amount of workload that he has been pitching before that July period. And the White Sox are purposely, and Garrett Crochet taming down his innings. And he's still, I think, at the higher level. I think he's at like 13 and a half strikeouts per 9 innings in the brief time that he has pitched since July. It's good to see him finishing off this. I was an advocate of shutting him down, put him in the bubble wrap, make sure he's good for 2025. It seems like the White Sox and Garrett Crochet are hell-bent on just, hey, let's push through, keep him on the same period, because we'll need him for this type of period maybe in 2025, or else when we do trade him, show the other teams, hey, this guy pitched the whole season. Yeah, at the end, we tapered him down, but that's understandable because this is his first year starting.
Yeah, I mean, think about what those conversations, or at least the conversation on the outside, right, would have been like if there are expected to be more Garrett Crochet trade rumors this winter. Let's say they shut him down at the end of July or something like that, right? Whether or not he was healthy at that time, there was going to be nothing but questions about, but is he healthy now? Is he healthy in December? What is the health? What is the health? By letting him finish the season, the White Sox are not only improving his ability to pitch a full season in the future, right? Because he knows what it takes to kind of get through it and keep on that routine. But they're also saying to teams that might be looking to acquire him, hey, look, he was healthy in September. We never had to put him on the injured list. He pitched an entire season. And yeah, the workload decreased, but that was a strategy. That was by design. And if anything, that should alleviate some of the worries, or any worries that you might have about, is he going to be able to make it through a full season? Look, he just did it, but hey, he's kind of saved up a little bit too, right? He's got some more mileage on that arm than he might have otherwise. So I think this is nothing but a good thing, both for Garrett, who very much wants to, take the ball every day, and he'd throw 9 innings every, every 5th day if he could, but very much a good thing for Garrett and his development and his future, as well as what it could mean for those trade rumors and those trade conversations come the winter.
And then today's day, the White Sox lose 2-0. As I said, Altuve hits a solo home run in the 8th, and you get the home run from Yainer Diaz in the 6th inning. The only blemish from a pretty not stellar, he escaped. It's Kai Bush. The new name has to be, and I know Javier Baez already has El Mago. He's the magician. Kai Bush in his 3 starts, 2 of them, he has escaped from. One, he had 14 runners he gave up and only gave up a couple runs. In today's start, where he had bases loaded in the second, bases pretty jammed in the first. The 4th inning, he got out of a bases runners on first and second jam, and then only gave up that solo homer to Yainer Diaz. I mean, what do we make of Kai Bush's start today? 6 innings pitched, 4 hits. Let's see, 6 innings pitched, 4 hits, 1 earned run. He walked 3, so that's an improvement for Kai Bush, who has been walking everybody and their mama, and 5 strikeouts today. What do you think about Kai Bush and what he did today in Houston?
Well, I mean, you talk about process versus results, right? And I think there's a little bit of a two-way street going here, which is the results have been okay, right? I mean, and that's the job description, is to get guys out and keep runs off the scoreboard, right? Keep people from crossing the plate. That's the job description. Obviously, that becomes a lot easier if you keep people off base as well. But number one goal is to keep the scoreboard small, and he only gave up 1 run on 1 solo home run today. So in that regard, very good job. But then there's the process part of it, right? And the putting guys on base is not a good sign, especially when it comes via the walk. And listen, let's not pretend like he didn't have some help. Dominic Fletcher with the catch to rob the 3-run homer in the very first inning made that start very, very different and allowed Kai Bush to go 6 innings and give up only 1 run. But again, that you could say that that's part of it, right? As long as you're pitching to your defense or pitching in a way that keeps guys off home plate, even if it means guys on base, you could argue that that's effective as well. The question is, how sustainable is that? Listen, this is the guy in his first handful of major league starts. I think this was only his 3rd, right, today. He's got a long, long way to go before we know what Kai Bush is consistently. And I think that it's a great thing that he's getting this opportunity now, if he's going to be part of the White Sox future in terms of what their rotation is going to look like in the years, plural, to come. He needs to get a head start on that. He needs to get going on it at some point to get that jump now, even if the results in terms of the scoreboard or the results in terms of the base runners or whatever are not going to be pretty at times. Go ahead and take it now, because now's the time where those results really don't matter, because the White Sox aren't playing for anything. They want a guy who's going to be able to give consistent 6-inning 1-run outings over and over and over again in a year when they're competing for something. That's not this year. It probably isn't going to be next year. So go ahead and make your mistakes. Learn how to pitch to big league hitters. Learn how to get big league hitters out right now. This is the kind of opportunity that we were talking about early in the year, right? When it was, we were thinking about this in March, let alone May or June. And you're seeing it now with Bush, guys like Jonathan Cannon, and even Drew Thorpe, who is hurt right now, but was getting those similar kind of opportunities. Let those guys go out there, and if they get knocked around, they get knocked around. But it could be a building block moment, a learning moment that can really help them in 2-3 years when this White Sox team is actually trying to contend for something.
We will get to Corey's $5 super chat and more talk about Dominic Fletcher after the break. But Vinnie, please tell us about the great folks over at Leinenkugels.
Well, as you know, I've got these pennants behind me. They show all of the states that my wife and I have traveled to. And right here over my right shoulder, the great state of Wisconsin, who, of course, is the home to Leinenkugels beer. It is summertime, both in Wisconsin and in Chicago. And there's no better beer to accompany all of your summertime activities than Summer Shandy, the fine folks at Leine's, with the taste combination there of the lemonade and the beer. And it is oh so tasty. So whether you're going down for a picnic by the shores of Lake Michigan, or you're going down for a tailgate by the shores of Bubbly Creek down there at Guaranteed Rate Field, you're going to want a whole case of Summer Shandy to come along with you, because they go together hand in hand. Maybe you want a little bit more variety, though. Well, Leinenkugels has you covered there, too. I love the Vices, berry and honey, but of course, there's all sorts of others: Lakeside Cherry, Grapefruit Shandy. How about that Juicy Peach that Herb is always enjoying? There's tons more. I love the Leine's Original, too. You got to have some of that. Try them all. They're all good. Leinenkugels knows what they're doing. Folks, flavor life's simple moments with Leinenkugels, the official craft beer of the Chicago White Sox. Go to Leinie.com/CHGO to find delivery options near you. That's LEINIE.com/CHGO, or pick up Leinenkugels pretty much anywhere they sell beer. Leinenkugels, flavor the moment, celebrate responsibly. The Jacob Leinenkugel Brewing Company, Chippewa Falls. Yes.
And the folks at Family Farms, their culinary journey is woven with passion, dedication, and a commitment to crafting the finest bacon-wrapped chicken, a timeless delicacy that has been tantalizing taste buds since 1974. Join them on this flavorful adventure where every bite tells a story of tradition, quality, and the enduring spirit of Family Farms. Their tradition continues. Now you can find Family Farm bacon-wrapped chicken even easier. Look for us in the meat department at your local Woodman's, Mariano's, or Burcott's. Craving a taste for home without leaving yours? Check out baconwrapchicken.com or click on the link in our Amazon store, which also includes the legendary Rocky Rococo's Italian sausage. And to find out with our new amazing Cajun Nation flavors will be coming available with an authentic Louisiana bite. They brought this in a couple weeks ago, the Rocky Rococo's, the delicious bacon wrapped chicken, which I've always parroted the great Ron Swanson, a little paraphrased him and said that's my third favorite meat, wrapped around my second favorite meat. And man, they cook it up perfectly. I got some of that sauce and that Cajun Nation spread on my cabinet right now. It is 100% good to go. Experience the flavor that's become family friendly for generations. Visit visit your nearest Woodman's, Mariano's, Burcott's, or on Amazon. baconwrapchicken.com. Thank you to Family Farms. And let's get to that $5 super chat by Corey. He says the fact that we're going to go finish possibly with the worst record of all time and can't get a top 10 pick means someone should lose their job. Fortunately, Corey, they're going to get a top 10 pick. It's exactly 10th because they are the worst team in baseball. They're pretty much guaranteed of that. But I hear what you're saying. And my answer would be the White Sox gave you your pound of flesh. They gave you the firing of Pedro Grifol. They gave you the firing of his lieutenants below him and Tozar, Rodriguez, and then also Montoyo, his bench coach. So I think that is what they're giving you for this bad season. I don't think many others are going to lose their jobs, or if they are, it's going to be an insignificant person, not an insignificant person. It's going to be a person that doesn't really move the needle as far as the organization moves forward. So that's my thoughts on it, Vinny. I don't think there's going to be any other major firings this year for the White Sox in the offseason that pays for this terrible season.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think you should expect to see a lot of new coaches come in when a new manager is hired, right? That obviously makes sense. They're probably going to have a lot of changes on that major league coaching staff to go along with a new manager. But to Corey's point about the draft pick, I mean, them's the rules. You know what I mean? I think that kind of is out of the White Sox control. Remember, when the White Sox started the 2023 season, they were expecting to compete for the division and more. It went horribly the other direction, and they did not do that. And by the time September rolled around, they were starting another rebuilding project, but they weren't starting the rebuilding project with the idea of, oh, well, we'll get a great draft pick this year. And then all of a sudden, no, they can't get one because it's only 10. They knew that going in. Those are the rules that of the new league and the new draft situation. So, that stinks for the White Sox, no doubt about it. But it's at this point really out of their control. They can only kind of go about things in the way that they think will suit them best. As we talked about at the draft time, just because they're only picking 10th doesn't mean they still can't end up with a good player. Major League Baseball draft more than any other sport probably points in their favor in that argument. But again, they've got to draft well. It comes down to them making the right draft pick at the spot they're at, way more than it does what spot they're picking in terms of the outcome of that or the success of that player. So again, it's a crappy situation for them. I'm sure they wish that their horrible record could get them the number one pick in the draft, but new rules to prevent this kind of thing being done on purpose is why they are in the situation that they're in.
Yeah, and they didn't want to be this bad. I trust me. They, as you said, last year they were intending to contend, and this year not as much. And this is one of the reasons why I'm going to bring up this subject is because we see what Dominic Fletcher is doing as of late. Before today, he was hitting over 300 in the last 10 games, looking good in right field. And credit to Grady Sizemore and this organization putting him on the field and just saying, play. We're seeing a lot more of Dominic Fletcher. This today, he, robbed a home run from Yanner Diaz, would have been a 3-0 game in the first inning. You help your pitcher out immensely. As you said, Kai Busch doesn't get to 6, probably, more than likely, maybe not out of 1, if that home run goes over the fence and Dominic Fletcher doesn't rob that. And in the third inning, you see the single. I think it was Jake Myers hit a single, and there's a runner on second. Dominic Fletcher charges that ball hard, runs after it, and gives, as Gordon Beckham says, a second thought to the third base coach about sending that runner from third home. And he delivers pretty much a strike to home plate and prevents that runner from scoring. And then Kai Busch gets out of that inning. These are the complementary things that you need from your defense. And I think that Dominic Fletcher doing these things now shows that he's a professional, shows that he's still fighting for a job. He's a 26-year-old first-year player, pretty much. Played a little bit last year with the Arizona Diamondbacks, and now should be getting a lion's share of the time right now with the White Sox in right field. But this is kind of my problem, why you're giving minutes, and I think we both agreed, like back in the day, Tommy Pham signed like after the season started, and you're giving him time, and understood why you're doing it, but it was a fruitless endeavor, as Tommy Pham really didn't get you anything back. I would have rather had 130 plus games of Dominic Fletcher and doing whatever he needed to do. If it's this average, is it this defense? Fine. Either way, you have a baseline of, we know what Dominic Fletcher did in his rookie year. We think there's projection still there, or this is it. This is the ceiling. And I think, you'll get some type of idea of what Dominic Fletcher is at the end of October. But I didn't think that giving Tommy Pham was the right move to give him all the games they gave him, even though the result was bad. Even if the result turned out to be good, I would have still said, man, having Dominic Fletcher and knowing what he does is a little bit better than having Tommy Pham giving you a minor leaguer that might or might not play.
Yeah, I think at the time we were pretty locked together on that opinion. Just the idea of being like, well, what does Tommy Pham do for this team in the long run? Whereas Dominic Fletcher was a guy that Chris Getz traded for, a guy that, he kind of said, hey, this guy can be a part of the future moving forward if he turns into the player that we think he can. I think the Tommy Pham acquisition was pretty low risk, right? And the idea of giving him that playing time, you're not really necessarily costing yourself much because it didn't cost a lot of money. Like, say, the Mike Clevenger acquisition costed more money, And then and again, this is hindsight, but Dominic Fletcher's had some injury issues this year too that might have kept him out of the mix anyway, even if Tommy Pham wasn't there. But giving Fletcher that time is kind of one of those changes that we've heard about since Grady Sizemore has taken over, as something that has at least stood out as noticeable. Now, maybe Pedro Grifol had plans to increase Dominic Fletcher's playing time as well, but it hadn't really materialized until Grady Sizemore took over and then said right off the bat, yeah, I'm going to try to play this guy in right field every chance that I get. So I think you've seen obviously good defense. The offense hasn't necessarily been there quite as much, but that's what this opportunity is for. As we were just talking about with Kai Busch and some of the young starting pitchers, the same can be said about Dominic Fletcher. If the guy struggles to hit, who cares? The team is struggling to hit. It's not like there's a guy behind him that's going to suddenly make them win 10 more games than they would have otherwise. You got to find out whether he's ready for this assignment or not, because unless they do something unforeseen, he's probably going to be the guy at the start of next year too. So, and he's a guy that can be part of the long-term thing here. So, Dominic Fletcher has done all right in getting that playing time, but I think just getting the playing time probably makes more difference to him, or makes a big difference to him in terms of, okay, I don't have to fight for tomorrow every day. I can go out there and just play baseball and know that no matter what happens, I'm going to get run out there again the following day. And I think that probably means a lot for a player.
And I also wanted to ask you, like, those are great points about Dominic Fletcher. Like, today in Bears Twitter, mostly on Greg Braggs, and I think it was Dan Weeder, they're going back and forth about whether there's value in the NFL, and at the time, specifically to the Bears, in winning games for the future. So your team is done like the White Sox. Is there value to winning games in 2024? And does that transfer over to 2025? Firstly, I just want to get your thoughts on, is there value in actually winning baseball games at this late stage where the White Sox are already eliminated from the playoffs?
I think the team would say yes. I think everybody involved with the team would say yes. Now, I don't know if that necessarily is true 100% of the way, but what the team would tell you is it's about creating an environment where people not only know how, but then expect to win, right? The idea that do not make losing the norm, or do not bury people in losses. I mean, you look what happened at the beginning of these last two seasons. The White Sox have been buried by losing right off the bat. By the time you get to the end of April, it's over. It was over. In both 2023 and 2024, because the starts were so bad. And then you had to slog through 5 months of more losing, but the idea of we're never going to get up off the mat from this kind of thing. And that's not criticizing each individual player's level of effort or anything. It's just looking at the standings and knowing math. So I think that to create the ideal culture that this team wants to have 3-4 years down the road, you got to start winning at some point, and you've got to have guys who know what it's like to win and expect to win. That being said, if they, let's say they play above 500 in September, and what does that mean for the team going forward? I don't know if it really means that much. I think that there are certainly you'd have better vibes over there. Certainly you'd have, maybe you could point to the building blocks of what I was just talking about, the idea that, okay, that's the springboard to next season. That's the springboard to the future. But if this roster is like it was this year again next year, why does winning some games in September mean that they're all of a sudden going to be better in 2025? I don't think it does. Right. So I think, like I said, I think the team, from a team building standpoint, would probably say, we can get some positive things going, some momentum going from winning some more games than we have over the course of the last 6 weeks here. I'm not sure if it makes much of a difference in terms of the record, though, moving forward, because I just don't know. Like, it's not like if they play 700 ball even in September, if they go out and get a bunch of the same low cost free agents and have a bunch of the same kind of roster that they had coming into this season, like, are we going to pick them to be a lot better just because September was good? I don't think so. But again, that's why they are the baseball people and we're just on the outside looking in, right?
Yeah, and you've said it early in the show. Like, I always say, process over results. But I'm not naive to know that they want to see the ball go through the hoop. Like, they want to see the fruits of their labor actually come to fruition. They don't want to just keep on, oh yeah, I'm doing all the right things and the results are loss. Or I'm doing all the right things, I'm 0 for 4 type of stuff. They want to see a dribbler get through, or infield hit, or something that is positive to reinforce that all the things that they're doing is paying off for them in the long run. And so, yeah, I think that in baseball specifically, and then this lost season for the White Sox, winning, I think it could matter to some of these players. Like, some of these players won't be here, as you're talking about. Maybe not a John Brebbia, not a Nicky Lopez, even though he started or had a nice play in the 7th inning where Lenny Sosa started that inning-ending double play. It was Lenny Sosa going to his right, throwing it back to Nicky Lopez, and then barely getting out the runner. I think it was Jake Myers again, and getting that out for ending the 7th inning. I think those type of plays, that type of attitude, that type of defense, that stuff makes people feel good. I know it made me feel good as a White Sox fan, because I've seen those plays not even turn into an out, much less a double play that ends a situation where the White Sox could have gave up runs. So I think that for the young players, like the player, not necessarily young, Dominic Fletcher, 26 years old, really first chance of playing extended period of baseball, seeing that things go right and that his stuff that Marcus Timms and defensive coaches are telling him are coming to fruition. They're working out. And now if he sees that and the next guy sees that and it filters on down to the team, I think, yeah, a winning culture, a winning atmosphere gets built up, and then they don't see and they don't feel like, man, these 90 plus losses are all on us. Next year, we'll break through and not do 90 losses. We have too much pride in our job, even though we are a dearth of talent. I think that we're better on the win-loss record, and I think that is valuable to see that left column get checked more than that right column, because they keep on seeing those and they keep on building up. And I'm sure that takes a toll on their psyche, on their mental health. Like, these guys are humans, and I'm sure somebody, you saw the I forgot which tape and what city it was. I think it was Oakland. Some dude getting on a White Sox player for them losing all those games. You know, that individual player wasn't responsible for all 21 of those losses, but he has to hear that every day. And so I would assure you that they win a game, as they did with Grady Sizemore that first time he won. Relief, exuberance. It feels good that you got one in the left column. On Friday, you get a 5-4 win where you strike out Altuve to end the game. That must feel great, even though you lose the series. I think they need to see a couple more balls going through the hoop to start believing the message that Grady Sizemore and his team are sending. But we still haven't even got to the transaction this week, and we will have a short break where Vinnie will tell you about Illinois Pork, and I will tell you about Sunnyside. But after the break, we will talk more about the transactions the White Sox made this weekend. Vinnie, tell us about Illinois Pork.
Well, Herb, it is grilling season, so get your pork. People who are active need more protein than the average American. In fact, the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics, Dietitians of Canada, and the American College of Sports Medicine recommend 1.2 to 2.0 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight per day for athletes, depending on training. Now, Herb, for a 150-pound person, that's about 81 to 136 grams of protein per day. 1 3-ounce serving of pork provides 23 grams of high-quality protein that can help active individuals build and preserve muscle. The International Society of Sports Nutrition recommends that people who are involved in a general fitness program or who are interested in optimizing their health eat low-fat, high-quality sources of protein, which include lean cuts of pork. Elevate your protein game with Lean Pork, a powerhouse of natural goodness. Savor the flavor, savor the gains, and celebrate any occasion by enjoying the best pork produced by Illinois pig farmers. From your sausage and bacon for breakfast to pulled pork or juicy chops hot off the grill, it's an entire season dedicated to pork and the people behind the product. Paid for by the Illinois pork producers, generations of commitment.
Our friends at Sunnyside Cannabis Dispensary are here to elevate your summer. Sunnyside is your home for judgment-free cannabis shopping. They have a crazy selection with over 100 different strains to choose from, with easy online ordering and in-store pickup. Wherever you are in Illinois, Sunnyside has a location for you. They have spots as far south as Champaign, ILL, and INI, and as far north as South Beloit. Stop in the store nearest you for expert guidance from their staff, or select from quality lines like Cresco or Florical. Here for the summer is Good News Tea Time Disposable Vape, bringing classic lemonade flavor that's perfect for the course. Because we all need a little help staying loose on the green. And Free Spirit vapes and cartridges are all new from Good News. With a lush mango flavor, these vapes are perfect for tapping into your flower power. I'm picking up some Good News gummies at Sunnyside, and you can too, by visiting sunnyside.shop for bright buys every day, including 50% off. That is 50% off your first 3 online purchases. Enter promo code HICHGO at checkout to qualify. Exclusions apply. Sunnyside Cannabis Dispensary, bright buys every day, only for 21 plus or Illinois medical card holders. Just amazing deal right there. 50. So you got better jump on that, folks. I've already jumped on it, so it's too late for myself, but go and get yourself right into something right now. Now I want to talk about the White Sox today and this weekend. They made a couple transactions, Vinny. I don't know if you want me to go over the whole list. I will tell you exactly. Go ahead.
I got you, Herb, because I don't think it's quite as scary a list as we think. I think it's some pretty easy stuff out in the bullpen. Guys, Matt Foster's back.
Yes.
Herb, Matt Foster's back.
Roll Tide.
Back off that 60-day IL. Of course, another player had to hit the 60-day IL, and I believe this means he is now out for the year. Dominic Leone, a right UCL sprain. We saw it when he came off the field in that last game against the Yankees on Wednesday. He did not look like he was doing well, and so I think the severity of that injury is perhaps not a surprise just based on the body language and the facial expression, but he's probably done for the year. But Matt Foster, who has not pitched in some time, is back with the big league at the big league level for the White Sox. Then you also have Gus Varland, who they picked up off waivers from the Dodgers earlier this season. He was brought up from AAA Charlotte to the big league team as Steven Wilson went on the injured list. So some moving and shaking out in that bullpen. But I think the most interesting thing that happened in terms of roster moves this weekend was Enyel De Los Santos, who was a Padres reliever, traded to the Yankees at the trade deadline. One of the Yankees' deadline pickups to bolster their chances at winning a very competitive AL East. He goes out on Monday and gives up 7 runs to the White Sox in the 12-2 win that the White Sox had over the Yankees on Monday that ended with Grady Sizemore all covered in shaving cream. De Los Santos was immediately DFA'd by the Yankees following that performance. And guess who picked him up? The White Sox. He has not yet been assigned that I can see. Maybe there was one of my colleagues who were down in Houston had that info over the weekend, but from at least the announcement, he was not officially assigned to whether it's going to be AAA, Major Leagues, whatever. But the White Sox have him. He's on the 40-man roster, and they ended up with a guy that a contending team traded for at the deadline, and all they had to do was score 7 runs off of him.
Yeah, and as a secondary Padre fan, I watch it, this whole year. Like, they had a chance to pick up better arms than him, Jason Adam, and they had to trade him. So I think his arm is live. And the Yankees saw that he gave up all those runs to the White Sox. He's like, this guy's trash, absolute trash. So he can't be redeemed. I think the White Sox got a live arm. So having a pickup that this caliber this late in the season, I think is a can't hurt, might help type of acquisition. And then also, did the White Sox officially put Mike Clevenger had surgery over the weekend, right? Or this week, and then he's on the IL for pretty much the rest of the year, right?
So, yeah, we already knew he was done for the season. But so this is just some 40-man roster maneuvering. They take him. He was just on the 15-day injured list. He now moves to the 60-day injured list, which freed up that 40-man roster spot for De Los Santos.
So with a neck disc replacement surgery, that sounds painful. And also some news to this weekend as far as the first round draft pick by the White Sox in 2024. Tell us more about it, Vinnie.
Yeah, we figured out where he'll be going. He's going to go to High A Winston-Salem. He is scheduled to make his debut there on Saturday. So the first professional start for Hagen Smith, who the White Sox took with the number 5 pick in last month's draft, is going to be this upcoming weekend. So big deal for the White Sox, big deal for Hagen Smith. But you already see, right, how advanced he was and how advanced they think he is to put him at High A. I understand that's still 2 hops away from the big leagues. And so a lot of people might be like, yeah, all right, call me when he gets a little closer. But think of where Noah Schultz, even, who was a number 1 pick in the draft and now one of the highest ranked prospects in baseball, think of where he had to start, way down at the bottom there. So it's a pretty good sign if you're expecting, I know Sean is, right, expecting Hagen Smith to be up in the majors by the end of next season already. Who knows if that's how it's going to play out, but here he is already getting to go to High A as a guy who has never made a professional outing to this point.
Very exciting that he just skipped the Cannonballers altogether and went over to Winston-Salem. Sounds like a much better town. Winston-Salem, it's in the district of Raleigh and Durham, instead of going down there to Kannapolis and the Intimidators. I know they're not the Intimidators now, they're Cannonballers, but down where Dale Earnhardt used to do his thing. But speaking of people that might be making jumps from a spot in AAA or AA to the majors, September call-ups come pretty quickly here, and the White Sox will have, like every major league team, 2 people they can call up for that designation. Are there any players on your radar that you think this player has maybe an inside track of being one of the September call-ups for this team?
I think it's easier to look at the pitchers probably, just because they can get a few outings here and there. They don't have to come up and play every day, or rather not play every day, right? You might think, okay, what's the point of bringing somebody up if they're only going to be a bench player, kind of that thing, or if they're maybe not ready yet. I think we had a I think we had a comment even referring to Brian Ramos. I don't think Brian Ramos is coming up in September because Brian Ramos isn't doing very well in AAA. And so I think you got to remember he was a guy who started the season at Birmingham, did so without many good numbers, by the way. He was doing pretty poorly when the White Sox called him up to the major leagues just because of a kind of a roster need. He did impress a little bit, a very little bit in a short amount of time at the major league level. But since he's gone back down to AAA, the numbers haven't been so great, though he has had a couple good stretches. But I don't think that's likely to happen, but we'll see. Maybe. I don't think Colson Montgomery is as likely to happen as I almost was sure that it was going to at the beginning of the season, right? He's another guy who just kind of has to keep grinding and keep working on things because the numbers have not been anywhere kind of near what anybody thought they would be. Now, a guy on the position player side who has been doing really well, Edgar Carroll, my initial thought would be, well, he's only 21 and he's pretty young. Why would you bring him up to the majors after just a small number of AAA games? But this is a guy who maybe you want to be your catcher for the bulk of next season. And so why not start getting him some of that look now, working with some of these pitchers who you know are going to be part of the mix next year. We saw Corey Lee come up to the major leagues in September last year. And while he did very poorly from an offensive standpoint, I'm sure getting that opportunity to work with a major league pitching staff and be around a major league coaching staff was very helpful and helped him to this year. Now we've seen, or I should say rather we heard in spring training that failure offensively last year in September really pushed Corey to make the changes that he needed to make to have a much better start to the season offensively this year. His numbers are not going to end anywhere near where they were early on in the year. He hasn't really hit very well for the bulk of the season versus the early going. But I think you can point to the defense and say that that's been pretty good year round. So if Caro is a guy who they feel would really benefit from getting some exposure to major league game speed in terms of playing the catcher position, maybe we do see him for a little bit. And again, too, catchers are another one who usually needs some more rest, so maybe having a third catcher is not always the worst idea there, but we'll see what they do on the position player side. I would imagine you'd see at least one more pitcher. Maybe that is a guy like Mason Adams, who is impressed this year, or even a name like Iriarte, who's climbing up those rankings in the prospect lists. So we're going to see a couple guys. It wouldn't surprise me if they are guys who could be a part of this thing moving forward rather than just giving Grady an extra bat or an extra arm to choose from in the dog days of September.
You talked about my guy and Edgar Carroll, like you were saying, he's 21, so you would be usually leaning on, he's young. Let's not mess him up for this year and whatever that means. But, man, he's gone down there to AAA and had no problem with it. Now, it's a small sample size. And so you might want to just let him run it out. Let him go until the end of the year and see what it is. And then that's his year. If you want to put him in fall league, put him in fall league. And then have him rest on his, man, I dominated AA and AAA. That's my season. But I'm of the thing of, if the guy has showed you, even in brief time, that he can hit the pitching that has been set in front of him, and he's young still, bring him up to meritocracy. And while Corey Lee has held down catcher, and whatever you're getting from Chucky Robinson is whatever, you can bring this kid up, and I think that give him a couple. Like, he doesn't necessarily need to be the majority catcher, but give him a taste of Major League Baseball, as I've always advocated. You talked about the Corey Lee experience last year, where he sucked. He was terrible offensively. 5 hits. I mean, he was a leader. I saw that immediately in his character, but went back to the drawing board, and he looks like a better player, even though the peripherals and the numbers show that he is not necessarily a good major league catcher with the bat. I like what he's done, and I think he profiles as a perfect off the bench backup catcher in the major leagues, because he does what you need him to do. And his framing and his defense will just get even better with experience, I believe. But Edgar Carroll, I think, should be on this team in September. And I was going to ask you, I know you spoke to Pedro before he got fired about giving players 2 months as opposed to 1 month of major league experience. Is there any difference, or does Grady Sizemore and his staff shown you or told you about his difference in opinion, or his opinion on young players and how much playing time he would like to get them?
Well, I think that Grady would have far less say than Pedro would have had, and I don't even really know how much say Pedro would have had either, right? In terms of, this is Chris Getz's decision, and certainly Paul Janisch, who's running the player development side of things. Those are the guys that would be making the calls on this. I think Pedro's comments carried weight not only because he had been here for a while, he was probably part of the discussions with everybody, in terms of that kind of thing. But also, he used to run player development department for a major league organization. He was the head of the player development, I believe, for the Mariners way back when, before he went over to the Royals, where he was for such a long time. But so to have someone with that experience share their thoughts on that kind of was interesting. And I don't know whether that is shared with or shared by rather Chris Getz and the rest of this front office. But I do remember back to Josh Barfield when he came over last year after running the player development side of things over in Arizona, and talking about how every single guy has a different path, and there is maybe no blanket approach that an organization should take to prospects. If that's the case, is there a guy down there, cough, cough, Edgar Carroll, cough, cough, who his path is taking him to the majors this quickly, right? And so I think that's why you've got to kind of be ready for something that you might not think might happen to happen, because ideally they are looking at things and looking at individual players rather than just saying, here's what we think, and when you have to do this in order to come up at this time, and this time is for this and this time is for that. If they're truly doing what Barfield was talking about and looking at each player's development path, you maybe could see somebody reach that point and reach that checkpoint either before September, on September 1st, something. And so I think it would, you can't count out the idea that something like that would happen.
And before we wrap up this show, I got a little Immaculate Grid-esque challenge here for you, Vinny, and you at home, if you are listening and are watching live, you can enter your answer into the comment section. Would you like the easier version or the harder version, Vinny?
Well, I have nothing to go on, so why don't you go ahead and give me easy, and then we can build up to hard. How about that?
Okay. Who is the White Sox pitcher that had the best F4 when he played with the Houston Astros? Meaning they're players that play with the White Sox. They're players that play with the Astros. I'm looking for that person, people that have played with both. And I'm looking for the highest F4 during that person's Houston Astros pitching career.
Okay, so basically you're asking me who is the best Astros pitcher to have ever also played for the White Sox?
Correct.
Whew. All right, let's go with...
This is according to F4, by the way.
Let's go ahead and go with Octavio Dotel.
Octavio Dotel, hold on. Don't give the answer yet, Sarah. Octavio Dotel is in the top 5, but he is not the number 1. Octavio Dotel is the third highest F4 with a 11 in his Astros career.
That's a pretty good guess then.
That is really good guess.
Number 3 on the top.
And that guy played for like 14 teams. So, yeah, that's a really tough one right there.
He did. He was very good with the Astros, though. Oh, boy. This is probably
thinking too hard on this one.
I'm definitely thinking too hard on it. Let's go ahead. I'm definitely thinking too hard.
I would not look at.
I turned it off beforehand. Thank goodness, because I'm sure they're all screaming at me right now.
Only one person is.
Okay, good. Oh boy.
I mean, you've talked to this guy numerous times. You have saw this guy. You have had a face-to-face conversation. I think he is currently playing in some Asian league, but he did pitch in the majors this year.
Oh, geez. This is not making things easier. Go ahead. Yeah, give me another hint.
$1. If you don't get that one, you're never gonna get it. This was
George Washington.
No. That's how much this team paid to get this player on their team this year in a trade.
Oh my goodness gracious!
Milwaukee Brewer's great. He has a great
year. Dallas Keuchel, of course.
There it is. He's got it.
God. That was bad. That was real bad.
There it is. There's a top 5. Dallas Keuchel at top 7.4 F4, and Danny Darwin brief time with the White Sox, part of the White Flag trade, 12.5. Octavio Dotel with 11. Doug Drabek, brief White Sox career, 5.8 in his Astros days. And some guy named Claude Redmond, who I think pitched like 3 games for the White Sox, but he had a 5.5 F4 for the Houston Astros. And this next one is supposed to be the hard one.
Excellent. Can't wait. We'll
It's
be here
just
for another 15 minutes.
It's just the opposite. And good job, PB64. You had the answer correctly. Who is the White Sox position player that had the best F4 when he played for the Houston Astros? So, who had the best F4 who also played for the White Sox?
How about Carlos Lee?
Carlos Lee is not the answer.
Oh.
Carlos Lee is third, just like your Octavio Dotel
Excellent
answer. He was 8.8 in his WAR. And this one's hard because the person that played at the top didn't play for the White Sox much, but played a decent amount for these Houston Astros. You have also talked to this guy, maybe briefly, but you have talked to him maybe early 2022 or 2023. Let's give
That's
you
last year.
Yes. It was quick. Yeah, it was quick. It was a quick he was 2023, early 2023, played 9 games, 2 at bats for the Chicago White Sox.
2 at bats.
2 at bats. That's it. So mostly he was a defensive replacement.
Oh no.
Does anybody have a guess here? I'll give you the other answers in the top 5. John Cangelosi, Chicago suburb zone. Milt May was the 4th. Carlos Lee, you've already said. And the guy who doesn't believe in dinosaurs, Carl Everett, is 2nd. This other
Martin
guy,
Maldonado didn't make the top 5, huh?
Martin Maldonado did not make the top 5. He is 7th with a 2.1 WAR. In front of him is Jeff Blum. Behind Martin Maldonado is Robbie Grossman.
Wow.
Yeah.
So there was a guy on last year's White Sox team.
Yes.
Who was better than a better Astro than Carl Everett.
He was, according to WAR, that was a better Astro than Carl Everett. He played in fewer games than Carl Everett. So, and fewer games than all these players. No, sorry, fewer games than Carlos Lee.
All right. He was on so he's a World Series Astro.
He is 2014 to 2019. Got long hair.
Jake Marisnik.
You got it. Jake Marisnik had a 10.8 Astros WAR, which is
insane.
All on his defense pretty much because he was not good with the bat. So yeah, I thought those were pretty hard, and we might do this for the San Francisco Giants tomorrow too. And then also all the show we'll be playing We Built This City, because I know that's the greatest song ever. Oh my God, it's so terrible. Like, how do people like that song? It is an absolute horrible song. So this whole week, Sean is off. So, and these games are in the West Coast. We will be doing we'll be not doing post-game shows for the Monday, Tuesday shows. We'll be doing a live show at 5:30. Myself, Jarrett Willis, and Vinnie Duber on Monday and Tuesday. The Democratic National Convention's in town. It's going to be hell around where we work in the West Loop. So we'll be doing these remote shows. And then we will be doing, I think, a post-game show on Wednesday for that White Sox Giants game. And then another Thursday afternoon.
No show on Thursday.
No,
we got the golf outing on Friday.
Oh, yes. Yeah. We got the golf outing on Friday. So we'll be joining for those 3 shows, folks. Remember, not post-game on Monday and Tuesday, post-game for Wednesday. And Jarrett Willis will be joining us for all of those. And we will definitely be doing another one of these Immaculate Grid-esque things. Vinny,
making me look like an idiot.
You cannot study for it. If you want to look it up and I answer the questions, I'll do it because I usually look like an idiot on these. And I will definitely be bringing Jarrett Willis into that. And he's a teacher, so he'll probably already know this stuff or watching right now and looking into it. So for Vinnie Duber, who is a CHGO White Sox beat reporter, read all this stuff on allchgo.com. I am Herb Lawrence. I'm the CHGO community leader, and usually we have our guy Sean Anderson, but he is on vacation. Enjoy your time off, Sean. He is not going to be talking on the DNC stage at all. He'll be just enjoying some times in the islands. Blue and Stony. Head tip to Jonathan Hood for that line. I appreciate it very much. And for our producer, Sarah, this has been CHGO White Sox. We will see you tomorrow at 5:30 for a White Sox Giants preview. Bye.
We all silly like the mayor.